Janie from Bizarre-ology, and today I'm going to show you how we're going to decorate a plaque and make some fake moss with something that you might just throw away. So let's get started. I am using one of our 3D embellishments and I'm going to go in with some gesso just to give it a little bit of a key before we start putting some colour on there. So I'm just pouncing the gesso over, and we don't need much of it. It's just really to give it a bit of a key to take some colour. So you can see how little I'm actually putting on the sponge, just to pounce it on. And then I'm going to give it a quick blast with the heat gun just to dry it off to go on to the next stage. So that's all we need. Now I'm going to go in with some Distress Oxide sprays. These are my new favourite toys. And I've got an antique linen, a pumice stone, and I'm probably going to use some of the peeled paint as well. So it's just to give it a base colour, and it doesn't need to be all over. The effect that we're going for is an old statue that's been out and weathered for quite a few years. So little spritz of that. So the green is just going to make it look like there's some moss and lichen growing on there. Just going to get rid of the excess on the mat, and we'll give it a quick dry over again. That's enough. Just now going to go in with some walnut stain distress ink on a blending tool. Just go around the edges just to give it a bit of shading. It's just a suggestion, really. There we go. And it's still a little bit wet, but what I'm going to do is pop a little bit of gilding wax, just a tiny little bit, and then while that's drying off, I'll show you how to make some moss to go on there. Okay. So I normally use household sponges when I'm putting on gesso, just because it gets a nice thin layer, but this bit here I don't often use for anything, so we can use this to make some moss. I'm going to cut it up into tiny little bits. So I could just stick it on like this, but it doesn't really look the right colour green for moss, so we're going to colour it up a little bit. Actually, one is probably enough for this project. So just into tiny little bits. Now what I'm going to do is peeled paint again with a Distress Oxide and just put a bit of colour down on my mat. I'm now going to go in with some of our acrylic glue, squeeze some of that out, and this is where you get a little bit messy. Saying that, I'm always messy, but let's mix it together so we get a nice gluey green paste. And then we're going to pop a sponge into it and just try and coat it. Pick it all up from the mat like that. So you do get very sticky fingers, but you can see the difference between the two now. It's a little bit more lifelike now. So let's go in a little bit of glue on the statue. So I'm thinking you'd probably get some moss around the top, little random areas, and some on the statue. So I'm going to go in with my tweezers actually to get some smaller bits stuck on there. So I'm going to put on more than you think you need, because once it's dry you can kind of trim it back a little bit. But because it's wet and gluey, it's actually a little bit difficult to handle, but we'll give her a nice mossy hairdo, because why not? There we go. See, it sticks everywhere, but it's worth it in the end. Right, and now a little bit on this one. I think it's sticking to my fingers more than it's sticking to the project. Let's pop a little bit more glue on there. In actual fact, what I will do is, quick little tip, if you find, because obviously the moss is sticky, it's got wet glue on it, and I'm trying to pop it onto something else, but what it wants to do is stick to my fingers. So I'm just going to heat the glue on the embellishment slightly. And what this will hopefully do, well, what it does is it starts off the curing process of the glue. So hopefully it will make it a little bit more tacky. Do you see how that's now sticking to it a little bit easy? There we go. A little bit more on the bottom. And then I'm going to set that aside to dry. Just clean up the mat very slightly. There we go. Right, so what we're going to do is use this little MDF plaque. So the idea is this will be sitting nicely on there. So I'm going to use a printed paper. This is one printed from the Bizarre-ology DVD-ROM, and what I've done is I've actually printed it onto some old graph paper, so it just gives it that little, a bit more of a vintage edge, I think. So I'm going to lay this down and draw around it. Like that. And then cut that one out. This is just really to show you how simply you can create a really nice effect on a simple plaque. It's a good way of doing things for, I think, a lot of people when they're thinking about getting into mixed media, a little bit daunted by it, because we tend to do quite a lot of different techniques, and if you're new to it, I think it can be a little bit scary. So just wanted to show how we can simplify things but still make it look pretty cool. So I'm just going to cut off the edges of this. So rather than draw around this base and then cut the holes out, I know that when this sticks in there, you're not going to see this centre edge. So rather than making life more difficult for myself, I'm just going to glue this bit and go up to the notches like that. I'll cut off the excess and then do the same on the other side. Just up to there. So that means I'm not messing around trying to cut these little holes out. And just trim it round. Like that. And then I'll stick this one onto the main plaque. Again, missing the notches at the bottom. Smooth it out. There we go. So I'm just going to go back in now with some Distress ink and just go around the edges just to give it a nice border. You don't need much of this, just to make a difference. And then around the base as well, a little bit in the centre. There we go, and that's the main plaque covered. So just to put a couple more embellishments on, I just wanted to show you a few different ways of printing out if you've got a DVD. So on here I've printed on vellum. I've also printed on a sticky back paper so you can make your own stickers. And then using some foiling. So I might show this on another occasion. It has been on one of my Hochanda shows, but all you need to do is print out using a laser printer, aka photocopier, put some foil over the top and run it through a laminator and it will foil it for you. I've also done some over printing, so just printing some sentiments over another pattern and printing onto some low tack tape just to make your own washi tape. So it just shows you different ways of printing out papers. So what I'm going to do, this is a foiled one that I've done, just of some old vintage playing cards. And the idea really is just to put lots of random things together and it will all tie in. It will look a little bit random to start with probably. So I'm just going to put that there because that's where I'm thinking of sticking that one. So this one can go at the top. Like that. I think what we'll do is pop a little sentiment in. So let's go for Wanderlust. Have a bit of a travel theme going on. And then just tie it in. We'll go around with the Distress ink again. Like that. And I think I'm going to slightly overlap it onto there. Just a little butterfly I think, and then we're ready to put the embellishment on. So which one should we go for? Let's have this little chap here. And these are quite nice when you print them on vellum because they kind of curl up a little bit when you stick them on. So what I'll do is pop a little bit of glue just on the body and then the wings will just lift up slightly. So tiny bit of glue in the centre. Pop that one up there I think. Lifting the wings. Let's get some glue on the back of here. And what I'm going to do is heat that slightly again, just to make it slightly more tacky. Pop that one into the base like that, so that I know I'm not coming off the edge when I stick this one down. Pop that one on the top. And what I'm going to do is just trim, if I can get in there, a little bit of the excess away. Might still be a little bit too damp. Yeah, I think I'll let that dry for a little while longer. A little bit more glue in the corner here. And there we have a little finished plaque. Very simple, mixed media, but for beginners I think that's a really good technique to start with. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll do some more soon. Bye!